program focusing on uniting and strengthening the family by providing valuable information on all facets of family life. In this monthly series, Raymond and Brenda Johnson will focus on the definition and importance of family. Hello and welcome to Family Matters. I'm Kyle Schwartz, and we are once again on our monthly program with Reverend Raymond and Brenda Johnson, and we are talking about, in our second of a three-part series, about family disagreements and conflict. So, do we review a little bit from our last session about disagreement going into conflict?
Yeah, just tie it together a little bit.
Okay.
And as we said before, that disagreement in life, you're going to have disagreements. That's just part of dealing with relationships. Disagreements become a problem when they move into conflict, which is a conflict is a serious disagreement that ends up in an argument and maybe even a fight. So we want to look at reasons why do we have disagreements. And just to review real quick, we looked at it in general. Why do people have disagreements? And we say it facts. They see different information differently. Definitions. People define things differently, so that creates disagreement. Values, we have different values. Maybe something important to someone and it's not important to me, so we can have disagreements on that. Something we call signaling, where we're communicating an agreement or disagreement, whatever our motive may be, but without directly telling it, to the person. Then failures of logic, where you're arguing about things that don't make any sense and there's really no conclusion to either. So you get into an argument about that. And info processing method. Some people process information differently, not slower, faster, and then sometimes like, come on man, get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that can cause it. Yeah, but it's different. It's not wrong. It's just different. And then the last one would be a default in our belief system. You believe God to be one thing, I believe God another. You believe, there's aliens, I don't believe, right?
Yeah.
So it's just our belief system that we've seen, heard, and experienced as we grew up. So that's sort of the 7 reasons why generally just dealing with people, we have conflict. Now, all of us probably know people who get into conflict more than others. There's sometimes problems with people's personality, their demeanor, and all of those things factor in. So what we really want to talk about is get people to do a self-evaluation of their own character, their own personality, and see, maybe if I'm getting into a lot of conflict with people, maybe there's something wrong with me instead of everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to get somebody to realize.
So hopefully they'll watch this and they'll do this.
That's me.
That's me. So some of the things that we look at, and a lot of it deals with emotions of why people disagree. One of the things that can cause people to disagree if they're a person that's easily offended. Every time someone says something that they disagree with, right away they're offended, and when they're offended, right away they start defending themselves. Oh, you offended me. Well, as a pastor, one of the things we know the Bible says, it tells you not to choose to be offended. You know what I mean? That offense is a choice.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm offended. Well, choose not to be offended. And maybe you can just take in the information, hear it right. Everyone's responsible for hearing, right? And you're responsible for your response. So sometimes people will get offended because, well, let's take it in husband-wife relationship, right?
Yeah.
Your husband may say something to you that is actually a truth, but he doesn't say it in the nicest way. So instead of you focusing on what he said, that's actually good feedback.
Right.
You focus on
how
you didn't have to.
Yeah.
You didn't have to say it like that. Well, the point is, oh, now I'm offended because you said it like that. Well, the point is, what he was telling you was actually something that you need to evaluate. So we need to watch ourselves. Are we offended every time someone disagrees with us? Are we easily offended? Another is not being very flexible. Don't want to negotiate anything. And some parents parent like this, my way or the highway, right? Mentality.
Right.
We're not negotiating anything. And I think ties into this not being flexible, what ties into that also is a selfish attitude. When a person is not flexible, they think they're always right. I'm in charge, so you're going to do it my way, and that's just it. You know what I mean?
No room for
No room
letting
for
the other person be a part of it.
yeah, be part of it. And even when we look at, we're parents, right? And what happens with parenting, we've talked about this, that when a child is young, I call it in the box, and you gradually open that box up as you're training them and raising them up. Well, they reach a certain point in life where you do need to, if you raise them right, you do need to start negotiating. You need to have some flexibility. Maybe you say, okay, you're in high school now. You used to have to be in at 9, you know, so they might say, well, you know, it's homecoming and all that. Can I come in at 11? Well, this person, that mom or dad that's not flexible, I don't care what it is. In this house, we come in at 9.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Regardless. So, okay, what's going to happen with that? You start having a negative effect on the relationship.
Yeah.
Because you're sending a message to people, what? I don't respect you. I don't respect you to be able to think. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And as a parent, that gets hard at the teenage years because you've had control for so long, and then you have to start to gradually give up some of that control.
Yeah. And it's tough.
And it's important too, like in when teachers and professors are giving group projects. I never liked group projects in high school or in college, but there's a purpose for it. And one of the purposes is you have to learn how to work with people, and you have to learn how to be flexible. You have to learn how to negotiate, and that's a part of growing up. So it's very important. It's an important skill because you're going to use it all your life.
Right.
So being flexible and not being so set on I have to have everything my way. It's something that you have to practice, and it has to be taught. So it's necessary.
Because in relationships, and we talk about this in family relationships, just in relationships in general, and marriage relationships, a lot of times your relationships are going to be as good as you negotiate them to be. And if you're not flexible, you're not going to negotiate your relationships to be one that both of us can live with, that both of us can win, as it were. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because if you see a relationship where one person is always getting their way, at some point the other person is going to explode. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
You always want everything your way. I'm tired of it. Oh, why didn't you say something? Well, you wouldn't let me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Right, you reach that point. Another area, and sort of ties in with this emotion, is, well, being too emotional. Everything you're emotional about. What they say about some people, they're not actors, but they can still cry at the drop of a hat, right? You know what I mean? Anything you say to them, they're just emotional about it. And when we get too emotional, it can affect our logical thinking. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, because your emotions start driving everything, and you don't stop and go, okay, let me logically process this instead of just being
Based
emotional.
on your feelings.
On my feeling. You're
bad
feeling,
about this, but I'm not processing.
I'm not
the
processing
logic.
because now I'm just tapping into my feelings about it, and I'm getting emotional about my feelings, and I'm not using my logic. So that's something. Look at yourself. Am I too emotional? Do I just let everything go right to the core of who I am? Another big one is anger issues. There are a lot of angry people walking around. There are a lot of angry people in jail because they had a moment of anger, temper tantrum.
That led to a crime,
A crime, yeah. Well, you can get perfectly intelligent, educated people that have these hidden anger issues, and then all of a sudden they're in traffic and something happens. This person who is normally a good person has a fit, get out of their car, and now here you are, a crime. You know what I mean?
Right.
On the highway. And that didn't just happen because this person is a person that is emotionally in control of themselves, and then all of a sudden, no. When you see something like that, that's something that been going on with the person. So many times people have these anger issues. Where they come from? They could come from how you were raised, right? What you've seen, heard, and experienced.
Right.
How you were raised. Different things have happened to you in your life, and they're angry at life in general. You know?
And then they just take it out on everybody
They
else.
take it out
Yeah.
on everyone else that's around them. And I've seen children. I think of one young man when I was teaching and someone we were counseling with. I mean, it's a great kid, very smart, but he was in a home situation where his mother and stepdad, they would fight all the time. His stepdad would be very nasty to him. And this is a great kid, very smart. And one day he goes to school and a kid says something to him and bam, he punches the kid. Well, was he angry at the kid or is he angry at home?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or repeating what he'd seen, too.
Right.
Repeating what you've seen. I can't punch my stepdad. He'll beat me up. So I'm going to pick on someone. So if people have unresolved, you're looking at this and you're watching, you feel you're angry and you have unresolved anger issues, need to get counseling for that.
And sometimes, we're talking about family counseling or couple counseling, but it sounds like if you have some other underlying issues, sometimes it has to be an individual counseling session.
Absolutely.
Several as well.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And that's what, as you look at these things, if you see that's you need to get individual counseling from some source to deal with it. Because at some point in time, right, you're going to act out. You just can't, keep yourself balled up like that. Some point in time, you'll end up acting out. And we talked about it in the other, sort of this miscommunication is a big one too.
Right.
We talk about that, how we're communicating, but we're not communicating. We spend a lot of time trying to help couples learn how to communicate their message in a way that's understood. Not just, there's one thing we talking to each other. There's another if we're actually communicating, where I understand what you're trying to tell me.
Maybe repeating back what I said so that I know that you understood what I said.
What I said. And we talk about all the time the basic communication model, right? Sender, receiver, feedback. Well, if you're giving me a message, then we tell them to stop. We tell them use a bottle of water or something. If I have it, I communicate.
My turn. Yeah.
I give it to you, it's your turn. Now, what did you hear me say? Well, I heard you say this. Well, that's not right. Let me say it another way.
Yeah.
Then you give it back. Because at that point, I heard you say this. Yes, that's what I said. It's not that you agree with it, but at least now we're at a point where we can talk about whether we agree or disagree, but at least I know we're communicating on the same level. That's just basic communication model, but people fail there because they're not trained to communicate in that way, and it can tie back to the emotions and all those things.
Yeah, and most of us in our everyday life, we don't stop and take the time to communicate the way we should.
Right.
And you'll hear us talk about family meetings all the time. And if you're having conflict in your family, a family meeting can really help resolve some of that, because you're actually taking the time to sit down and stop thinking and rushing, talking and walking at the same time and driving and talking. You're actually sitting down and you get to go through a thought process. And that makes you communicate clearer.
Right.
Because you have a clearer head, you're not rushing somewhere, and you're able to think about things that normally you would forget in your rush of communication or arguing or miscommunication. Things just get left on the table that never get resolved.
And it's important, and she talked about family meetings, it's important that most issues in life are not an emergency. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have an emergency, but most things are not emergency, and they can actually wait. So you also have to look at yourself. If you get in a disagreement with someone, some people, when they have a disagreement, we need to resolve it right now. We're going to talk about it until we resolve it. Well, you catch the other person off guard and they're not ready to talk about it. So we always suggest, if it's not an emergency, you say, hey, this happened, And in our family meeting on Sunday, let's say this is Wednesday, in our family meeting on Sunday, I want us to talk about this issue. Not now, because now what did? I just gave both of us time to think about it. You won't be, blindsided, by the conversation. You can take really some notes.
Yeah. If
Then
you have a regular time set up, and then just defer if you can, in most cases, to that time.
Yeah, because most of the time things aren't emergencies. People just, because of the other stuff, right? Their emotions and all that, they view things as an emergency. Another one, if someone thinks someone is trying to use them, like you're trying to take advantage of me. And some people have that position where they think people are trying to take advantage of them all the time because of what? Someone took advantage of them. So they view everyone through the lens of, you're just trying to use me. so you gotta, okay, let me think about this person, my relationship with them.
Like is now instead of my
now,
past.
So that I'm not causing them to, it's something I thought of. And I said that we have to guard our heart so that the people in our future do not pay for the mistakes of the people in our past.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. Because the person in our future, they don't have any ill will. They're not, have any negative motive toward us. But since we're looking at them through the lens of someone in our past, we can't give them that
a fair chance.
Fair chance, as it were. And one more here is that sometimes people feel that if someone is looking down on them because this person might feel because of their economic status, because of their education or lack thereof, they may look at people that have a higher economic status, have a more intelligent, as it were, more education, and sometimes people will view people like it's not necessarily true at all. It's normally not true, but they will think, oh, just because they have more than me, just because they have more education, they look down on me.
Right.
So they go around in this posture of,
being
poor
the
me.
victim,
I'm a victim. Everybody looks down on me because I'm not as smart as they are. I don't,
Right.
And the truth is, that's something you're dealing with within you. Because most of the time, 99.9% everyone, they're not even thinking about you. You're thinking about that.
You're the one that's putting that on yourself.
You're putting it on you. They're going about their life. So I think as we look at, in general, why we have disagreements, and we're going to always have disagreements, it is important to do, okay, let me do a self-evaluation to see if I'm my biggest problem. And then try to overcome those things. And if I can't overcome them on my own, get some professional help. Yeah. So that's really what we want to talk about there, but we don't want to just leave them here. That'd be bad to tell you why you have disagreement, conflict, and then say, deal with it.
Right.
Next time what we'll deal with, we're going to look at some techniques and that help us resolve.
Some exercises or something?
Exercises, some techniques, some things you can do that allow our disagreements to just stay in the disagreement level and resolve them there without going into conflict.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Yeah. That sounds good. Anything else then?
That's it.
Good. That's good.
All right. Well, next month we'll be back with that. And thank you for your information today. A lot to take in. All right. Thank you for watching Family Matters, and join us every month when we talk with Reverend Raymond and Brenda Johnson about marriage and counseling and all kinds of things, family relationships. So thank you for watching. I'm Kyle Schwartz.